morning glory. Say there, stop that yawning. A brand new day is dawning. Pull up the shade and let the sun come through. Good morning glory. Spend about an hour underneath a shower and keep on singing like the birdies do.
Welcome once again to Books of the Week. This is the at-home version. I'm in my sunroom, and it's sunny in Wisconsin. One of the 3 days we get sun, and you're here for it, and we're very excited. Doubly excited to welcome Steve Donahue, book critic extraordinaire, the bionic book critic, back into our home, virtual homes.
Hello,
and
everybody.
good morning. Hello, Steve. Hope you had a fruitful reading week.
I did. Yes, very much so.
Fantastic.
I'm so happy that you can squeeze me in your schedule.
Steve has gotten wind of the fact that I have strayed on him, and I kind of sleaze around with other book people when he's not around.
There's the Jack Hankey show. There's Books of the Week. There's some sort of white tie gala tonight.
And Steve, I have to thank him for doing a little promotion for CPL Radio and the Cedarburg Public Library. We are underway with summer reading program is on, and that's a big thing. This is kind of our Christmas season, Steve. I must assume the Boston Public Library has a summer reading program of some sort for the kiddies and for the adults.
Summer reading program is a big thing, but it's not as big a thing as me.
He actually made me shrink. I shrunk. I've been in these boardroom situations before.
It's a horrible thing, being yoked to a prima donna.
And yet I enjoy every minute of it. What's wrong with me?
Well, I don't know. A whole bunch of ex-wives didn't know.
No, they didn't. They meet every month to discuss. It's really nice. Yes, they have crepes, and it's lovely. And I'm not invited. So, what is this weird thing you've stumbled upon? Of course, it is Books of the Week, where we
Yes, where instead of crepes, you have creeps.
All right, let's not get so punny over there on the East Coast. We gather here on your computer, here on YouTube, to discuss books, and we like to do a nonfiction title, preferably something newer, and then a fiction title, also of the same ilk. And then I usually raid the new arrivals area for random books that I throw at Steve's head, which he expertly doesn't dodge. But today I'm at home. I'm not going until later, so I grabbed 5 items off my bookshelf. Oh, Lord. Stay tuned for that. There we go. Steve, I bet you have a nonfiction title for us today, and I'm very excited.
I do indeed. I have a political book, a political insider operative memoir type book that I don't hate.
That's huge.
That is pretty rare. That very seldom happens. This is The Situation Room by George Stephanopoulos, who a lot of you our younger patrons will know as a news anchor, news discussion anchor.
Mm-hmm.
And our older viewers, maybe we have a lot of older viewers. Our older viewers will remember him as the 5-foot-tall wonderkind in the Bill Clinton administration.
Right. Subject of a documentary called The War Room that was pretty well lauded.
He was regarded in a lot of circles as Clinton's brain. And well, there's so many. My producer and I are both thinking 1,000 jokes, and we're both having the same thought, which is, no, I can't stoop that low.
Look how amused these people are with our jokes.
We won't talk about any of Clinton's other organs. Let's talk about his brain. And here in this book, Stephanopoulos writes about a thing. I don't imagine that any of our listeners or viewers are not from the United States, but if there is a place called the Situation Room, mm-hmm. in the DC power structure, that is where the United States president goes to talk with top pertinent aides in some sort of crisis. Mm-hmm. It's supposedly secure. It's supposedly soundproof, missile-proof, bug proof, all that sort of thing. And it's where
Just like CPL Studios.
it's where plans are made. It's where eventualities are actually stated baldly. So not the press release stuff about how things are looking tense, but the president's ears only stuff about it's this many tanks.
Mm-hmm.
And Stephanopoulos gives views of things that have happened in the Situation Room over the years, famous things that have happened in the Situation Room over the years. The most famous glimpse of the Situation Room in real life, it's in movies and TV shows all the time, but the most famous glimpse I think that most viewers will be familiar with is that iconic photo of President Obama and his advisors watching live footage of the Osama bin Laden raid.
Right.
There's an iconic photo of that happening. But lots of other things have happened in the Situation Room. Of course, the Situation Room is in presidential terms is a fairly new thing.
Mm-hmm.
In the William Howard Taft administration, for instance, that was the kitchen. There was nothing situational about it. But as technology has grown, the need for such a place has grown. Yeah. So Bill Clinton gets in here. I myself jump at the chance for any writing by Stephanopoulos about his old boss.
Yeah.
I'm really, really hoping that he writes a big book about the Clinton administration once Clinton is dead. I feel certain that's what he's waiting for, to do that kind of thing. Maybe out of loyalty.
Does he have to wait for both Clintons to be dead or just Bill?
No, just Bill.
Just Bill. Okay.
No one who loved Bill Clinton in the Clinton administration loved Hillary Clinton. But I don't know if it's personal loyalty. I don't know how that survives this week's revelations about Jeffrey Epstein. How do you anyway, that's just for another podcast.
I guarantee you that's not in Stephanopoulos' book.
No. This is fascinatingly done. Stephanopoulos is a smart guy. And
he is a smart guy.
I don't know if he's an eloquent guy or if he's paying somebody to be eloquent for him, but this is a smart, readable book about the inner workings of the White House in crisis.
Yeah.
That will inevitably raise questions. Of course, there's only one person you're going to be thinking about when you're reading this book, and he's not in it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is our racist, sexist, fascist, lying moron ex-president Donald Trump, who we have been told by a number of different people thought the Situation Room was boring, wanted more graphics, asked repeatedly if he could launch missiles from the Situation Room. None of that's in this book. That's all you're going to be thinking about, because that's all you're going to be thinking about in any case. When I go to used bookstores now and I find a 70-year-old book, the wonderful stories of our presidents, I can't buy it. My hand shrinks from it because the whole thing has been retroactively smirched.
Yeah.
But if you aren't like that, if you can separate that, well, this book is a winner. Yeah. It really is a winner. It's full of interesting anecdotes that I don't have any reason to believe aren't true.
Yeah. I don't think Stephanopoulos had a reason. I mean, there would be no impetus for lying, I wouldn't think, would there?
Well, he's in the current mainstream news media,
right?
Which means he's a lying sack of crap.
Yeah,
that's actually what that means. That if you're a member of the mainstream media, that doesn't mean anymore that occasionally, when pressed, you will lie. It means you're a lying sack of crap all the time. Your personal life, in private, on camera, off camera. As far as I'm concerned, the idea that was something that some people did sometimes, but not that everybody did all the time, died when the American people learned that Bob Woodward had tapes of Donald Trump saying he was going to lie about a deadly pandemic and not releasing them because it would help his book deal.
Right.
Anybody at that time had the title Dean of American Journalists, it was Bob Woodward. And in that moment, we learned that not only is he a lying sack of crap, but he's the biggest lying sack of crap.
He's a black belt, fifth level black belt. Yes.
Now, you could say that maybe that he wasn't always that way. I guess that's demonstrably true because he didn't sit on Watergate.
Right.
But it's true now.
Yeah.
So I assume that George Stephanopoulos lies all the time
Yeah.
about everything, and especially professionally he does. But I didn't find any indication of that in this book.
Right. I always felt like he was slumming it when he was a morning host on Good Morning America for many years, and I thought, man, this has got to be demeaning.
Oh my God, some of those segments on Good Morning America are so painful.
They are very painful. High comedy, really.
The icon, the graphics flash up for the next segment, and it's bubble-headed bleach blonde on location in Santa Barbara or whatever, with a microphone, restlessly saying, "Have Big Macs gotten smaller?"
Hey, I loved that segment, by the way.
The Real Housewives of Wisconsin love them.
I mean,
Stephanopoulos looking at that and thinking, "Oh my God, what happened? What has my life become?"
Well, I mean, it's not as good as this segment we were trying to do recently, but it's very sorted, very sorted.
It's the allure of those morning shows and the morning showification of the non-morning shows.
Right.
Let's make it all this kind of mumbly voiced, Hallmark card, perfectly harmless stuff at all times. It pulls people in. Of course, the ratings are there, so the money is better. So it pulls people in. You get George Stephanopoulos on such a panel. There's a gorgeous news guy named Gio Benitez. He actually has the chops to do all kinds of serious stuff, but he's been pulled into this morning show business.
Yes.
Even a former newsreader for Boston, tiny little David Muir, also has the chops to be a real newsman. Also has been pulled into this softball type world. We don't do softball on Books of the Week.
Well, not so fast, sir. I got a memo from the head office wondering if we could morning showify this this particular show. So,
what, the other 10 shows you host aren't friendly enough? Is that it? The other 10 shows you're two-timing me with? All the losers and lobotomy patients and floozies you spend your time with when you're not producing me? You are, let me repeat, M-I-N-E, mind.
We don't morning showify here. We actually do afternoon show a la Maury Povich, Jerry Springer. That's what
break chairs over each other.
That's what we do here.
In the C block of this episode, Jeff finds out that
he's Steve. So there we go.
Terrible shame that Books of the Week isn't as popular as those other shows that you spend time with. Oh wait, what is that? What am I hearing? That it's 100 times more popular? Oh.
Don't you folks love the inside baseball nature of this segment of our show? Anyway, I did have an update from the Broad Queen. He says, changing the subject extraordinarily fast, and she has actually taken on, because of the Acolyte is on Disney Plus now, she was inspired by the Force, and she has mastered it. Yes, folks, it's my favorite picture of the week. And there we are.
The only time my sausage links do that is after I've eaten them, if you know what I mean. Not before.
Medically, that's very dangerous, Steve. I'll have you know. But there we are. Hey, it's time for a fiction selection. That's right. The time we go over to the fiction part of the library virtually. And Steve, what do you have for us today?
I have an up-and-coming author, someone that I think has a big future in the fiction world. His name is Kafka.
I've heard. Yes. Is he at it again?
Yeah, he is. He's at it again. This is a new collection of his work, translated in with an introduction, new translation by Mark Harmon. Always want to look at what a new translation of a canonical author will be like. Of course, certainly. Kafka has such an odd standing in the universality of literature that I'd be willing to bet that a lot of people who love him don't even realize that he is translated, because he speaks so universally that to the profound confusion of not only modern life, but Books of the Week. This is a very Kafka-esque show.
Yes, I was a vermin, and now I'm better.
Yeah, the jury's still out on that, But where was I? Oh, right. this book has all of the famous stories. It has a couple of the non-famous stories. It also has the Metamorphosis, Kafka's most famous story, where the one my producer just alluded to, where the narrator wakes up and finds himself a giant vermin, often mistranslated as a giant cockroach.
Yeah,
close enough. Close enough. In this book, it's not called the Metamorphosis. Mark Harmon, the translator, decides he's going to call it the Transfiguration or the Transmogrification or something like that. And
really,
you don't any more than it's not A New Hope. Okay, it's Star Wars.
It's Star Wars, exactly.
You don't go back and change what a million people already love. They won, so you don't get to do that. But still, translations are really good, and the book itself is lovely. It's full of illustrations, just full of photographs, of black and white photographs that really put you in Kafka's world. Of course, there aren't many photographs of him,
right?
But they're all in here, and so are a lot of other things. Actually, I had a question for you.
Yes.
About whether or not your library would ever get this volume.
Well, I'll tell you. I have actually strayed from the bestseller mentality frequently, and for something like this, I would. I don't do it often because I do have to be very cognizant of what the community wants. Danielle Steele. But
that reminds me. We have to go back to Danielle Steele.
She has a new one yesterday and tomorrow.
Birthday, so she has a new one. Yeah. The number of responses I got the one time the books of the week,
books of the day.
Books of the day. Yeah. Danielle Steele. The number of responses that I got the one time we did that. We did it twice. I think we did two.
How could we not?
I got so many responses from people saying, okay, A, I was laughing my head off. But B, you actually did talk about the book. You actually just dismiss it. And that was so refreshing.
Right. I believe the Whittiers. I think the Whittiers is what we did.
What they want. But in this case,
it's time. We are long overdue for a visit to Danielle's mansion. So, but yes, to answer your question, I absolutely would and probably will for the sole reason that you brought it to this show. And I like to make sure that,
What about other Kafka? Is Kafka in the library?
Oh, yes. Oh, certainly. You can get I believe I have the Castle upstairs. I believe I have, I definitely have the Metamorphosis because it gets assigned at the high school level frequently. So
at the very least, right? That's why any library would have Kafka because it gets assigned.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I know I have the Castle as well. And then when both of those are out, I'll say, try The Plague by Camus. It might give you the same.
I strongly recommend this volume.
Excellent.
I really do. It's just not often that I get to do that, but I strongly recommend. This is a wonderful new version of Kafka.
I'm assuming it's published by a university press of some sort. Is that
University Press?
Okay. So, which I can get. I can certainly round that up without a problem.
It's got everything that you would want and a little bit more. It's got a great introduction. The new translations are interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All sorts of critical apparatus, and there are also all of those photos.
Yeah, absolutely.
That are just fascinating. They show you all the environs of Kafka, even if he's not in the picture.
Yeah, it sounds like the portable Kafka or something that you could that sound, which is great. I guess, although
I wish that it were longer. I wish that it were long enough to have a big novel, America or The Trial or something like that. I wish that it were longer. Then it would be a portable Kafka.
Yeah.
The pictures really do it for me. They are really the grace note at the end. And not to grim up the broadcast, but the pictures really underscore that if Kafka hadn't died, he would have been murdered by the Nazis. And the pictures clearly show that time lines up just fine. Now, of course, a lot of his relatives were murdered by the Nazis.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the world that we'd be living in now if our history of the Holocaust included as its victims Albert Einstein, Sigmund Freud, and Franz Kafka?
Wow. We'd probably be doing this broadcast with sticks and rocks. I mean, what would be left? I can't imagine. So, well, that's fantastic. It's, people, I think, regard Kafka as bleak because they'll say it's Kafka-esque, when in fact, my most recent reading of some of his works, I come away with the amount of humor.
Yeah, he's very playful.
It's very
playful writer. I don't think he's always happy when he's being playful. I don't think he could help it.
Yeah. Thankfully, he wasn't medicated ever. He wallowed in ennui.
I don't know what we could say about a national mentality that is sometimes leadenly playful, but always ashamed of its own playfulness. I'm sure that has nothing to do with the fact that Kafka was German. They couldn't possibly go together.
Yes.
We're all familiar with the lighthearted, frolicsome humor of the Germans.
My favorite German stand-up always said they deliver the punchline and then say, "You will laugh now."
Yes, Rainier Wolfcastle from The Simpsons. That's the joke.
They're working on it. They're getting better. I hear it's getting better all the time. Well, that's your two extraordinarily professional recommendations for the week, and they're both recommendations, which is a little unusual for the show.
That is a little unusual for the show because I am a buzzsaw. But
Yes,
these two are good.
There we go. There we go.
Will you ever get the Stephanopoulos book, do you think?
Oh, it's already on the way, or it's already landed. I'm sure that's not something that we would pass on just because of name recognition. Good Morning America. So it's unfortunate that that's the reason, but and I think and I'm being a little flip, I guess. Our readers do very well in the nonfiction section, I think, and we have a pretty robust nonfiction section. So So in fact, I have a lot of patrons who will say I never venture over to fiction. I'm strictly nonfiction. So. And it's not a few, it's not a handful, it's a lot. So, I mean, we're cool here in Cedarburg. Some of us strive for cool. But, hey, I got the canon. So, I mean, if you ask me, that's cool.
You in Cedarburg go looking for cool by seeking acceptance everywhere.
I'm desperate, man.
All kinds of shows. You'll produce anything.
I'm so lonely, Steve.
I just realized I am Streisand effect recommending all these other things. Oh God.
You've done it. We try to do good here, and all we do is cause damage. But that's okay. Speaking of causing damage, let me bring the pile over. I just grabbed this recently off the most recent book sale. And I don't know why. It's Murphy by Samuel Beckett.
Well, here I commit a cardinal sin for anyone with the last name of Donahue. I don't like Beckett. I don't like anything that he did.
Yeah.
None of it. And I don't... Lots of people do. He is venerated in a way and by a spectrum of people that leads me to think that the dislike must be just me in this case and not him.
Uh-huh.
And also, I should probably have intuited that from the fact that I don't like literally anything he did. Mm-hmm. Usually, if you come across an author and you just don't like anything at all that they wrote in, Beckett wrote in a lot of different forms, including letters. If you don't like anything, then probably it's you and not the author.
Okay.
What are the chances? So I didn't like Murphy. But in this particular instance, what a rare podcast this is. I'm going to say don't trust that. I
have it on record, folks.
A couple of years ago, I came across a diehard Beckett fan, and that made me think yet again, oh my God, I should go back and examine this guy's work. And I thought the way in, I'll use my usual way in. I'll read biographies of him first.
Ah, very good.
Yeah. And I didn't even like those.
Wow.
Talk about total absence of a wavelength. It's so weird. 3 of the most popular Irish writers in the world, in existence, in the canon. Yeah. And I hate all 3 of them.
That's very interesting.
And Oscar Wilde.
Yeah. Wow. We're going to call today's episode The Donahue Tapes because you admitted on tape. Don't listen to me on this one. When are you going to hear a published book critic say that?
No, definitely, Judge, could count me out when you're asking about Beckett because I distrust my own reactions. He wrote so much in so many different forms that for me to not like any of it, I just need to revisit him. I need to find somehow a mental space to do that.
Well, I know you've got the mental space for this. This is something I couldn't not grab. Speaking of, and there's a lot of grabbing in this book. What I have here is a wonderful hardcover amalgamation called Men's Adventure Magazines.
Yeah.
Mostly the covers, a little bit of fiction. Look, I have cats, but they don't do that.
They would if you gave them half a chance.
They would
There are no
ravage.
innocent cats. There are no harmless cats. If I had a time for every time a cat person has told me, "Oh, you won't mind Sydney at all. He thinks he's a dog." Yeah, he doesn't think he's a dog at all.
Well, fine. You don't like cats, but you might like whales. That's the cover of Stag. For those of you listening at home. Oh, might have a hiccup here. Oh, hold tight, Steve. We had a little hiccup, and that is. Yep, we're back. Go ahead. You were about to say something very pithy about. Yes, go ahead.
This is a gigantic collection of covers from men's adventure magazines over the decades, full of accompanying text. It's not just covers. You get to learn all about these magazines and the people who put them together. You get to learn all about their readership. It is a lurid book, yes, but it's also incredibly fascinating. I have that exact copy, and I had such a bizarre reading experience when I read through it the first time, because I decided rather than pick and peck, I will read this as a book. So I was thinking, all right, well, the pictures are fascinating, but whoever's generating this prose is doing an awful flabby job. Do you know what you're talking about, or don't you? And I'm turning the pages like that, chapter by chapter, and then all of a sudden I'm reading along and I think, whoa. Okay, the narrator really picked up his game. Now all of a sudden you do know what you're talking about. Now you're giving me concrete examples.
Sure.
How amazing. And then I realized that was in German. That chapter was in German. It wasn't just a different writer, it was also a different language. A language like floppiness. Really kind of wishy-washiness.
Speaking of Germans, they do make an appearance here.
I love it. I thought it is an endless. Is that a hardcover that you have?
Yes, sir. Makes that noise.
Yeah. It's an endless time sink with one important qualification. You have to be a man. I cannot imagine any woman anywhere in the world getting more than 2 pages into this book and saying, what is this? And not because women are being degraded in the
book. Well, they are.
They are, yes. But it's not because of that. The reason that a woman would have that reaction is because this book is a gigantic, neon bright waste of time. It's just so wonderful. Oh, my God.
That being said, Steve, as a single man, I will tell you that the first woman who comes up to me and says, oh, I love that book. One knee, ring out. See you under the chuppah at the synagogue. So there we are. All right, Men's Adventure Magazine. If you can find it out there, it's not like it's rare because it's relatively recent, but, in the last 10, 20 years or whatever. But I can't imagine too many libraries. Ours rejected it. That's why I brought it home. So there we are. This is interesting, and I've made it through half, and I've enjoyed it quite a bit. And I have the 7 short novels of Chekhov.
Look at that.
This is wonderful. Again, library binding, but
look at that.
It's pretty wonderful.
Who's the translator?
Oh, that is a good question. They're not very forthcoming with that. Hang on. I have an introduction by Gleb Struve or Struve. That is not something that they are giving up in the most. Yeah, no. We're not going to talk about that, I guess. Yeah, none of our business. So there it is.
Well, the interesting thing about those older translated works, they almost never mention the translator.
Yeah, it's Bantam.
Fine print.
Bantam book. So it was just this was an airport paperback of Chekhov, I guess, as a Bantam.
Well, paperback. What can I say about Chekhov? A great literary figure, a great starship navigator. He's got it all.
Yeah. Wonderful. The books in here: The Duel, Ward Number 6, A Woman's Kingdom, 3 Years, My Life, Peasants in the Ravine, and this just I guess I made it through half so far, and I've been loving this. And it's amazing how much modern life you can find in Chekhov. It's fun. So I enjoyed that.
Chekhov he's incredibly insightful, an amazing writer, but he's not ever bizarre.
No.
And as a result, he takes a back seat to Kafka. They're actually very similar writers, but Kafka is also bizarre.
Yes.
And we just love that.
We chew it up.
When you think of a Kafkaesque author, you think of Kafka instead of Chekhov.
See, Kafka has more to do with these eels attacking this guy.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, this will be interesting. So, those of you who watch the show regularly, which is all of you, Steve has a dog. Steve has had a lot of dogs, and I've often wondered if he enjoyed Travels with Charlie.
You'd think I would.
You'd think.
You? This is Steinbeck's dog book. You'd think
Yeah.
I would like it, but I don't. I talk about
Interesting.
you're hitting the hits here, because Steinbeck is another author that I'm not on his wavelength.
Yeah.
At all. Not at all. He wrote one book, a sort of tongue-in-cheek send-up of Arthurian romances.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that book.
Yeah.
But all the rest of it, it just, no matter what he's doing. I mean, Beckett wrote plenty of stuff that's right up my alley. You'd think I would like it, but no.
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't like Travels with Charlie. Might be the only dog book I don't like.
This is it. I've got one right here. Yeah. I give The Grapes of Wrath a try every 2 years, and cannot get. I do, as the kids say, DNF it. I can't. The pros make
the only dog book that I don't like. There's also Jonathan Katz.
Oh.
Has written a lot of dog books. I'm sure you have some in the library system. And he wrote one heartfelt memoir about a dog of his that he marched to the beat of his own drummer. I would give him commands and he would not obey them, or he would obey them in a weird way. He was very affectionate, very warm and loving, and he clearly wanted to please me, but there was just something off about him. And eventually, at page 40 of my book, I decided that the most compassionate thing I can do is blow his brains out.
Is this the Christy Nome book?
Christy Nome. She owned his dog before she knew to do it. Maybe she got that idea.
Oh, no.
Reading his book.
Yuck.
But there aren't many dog books that I don't like, especially if the dog survives. And Travels with Charlie, no.
Yeah.
No. Something about the author. Just something about the grand old man of letters.
Well, I do not strive to be a grand old man of letters, because I'm never going to be an old man. So there we are.
And you're certainly never going to be grand at anything. I hope that's clear, boy chick.
Steve has decreed it. I answer to one person only, though. As do you, mister.
As do I, yes. And again, I'm Streisanding fact, because every time I backhand you in one of these broadcasts, you get a million votes of sympathy. And I don't get any. Nobody ever gives me any sympathy votes. Instead, it's, why are you so mean to him?
I bask, Steve. I bask. Our final title off of my very bizarre bookshelves that make no sense to me whatsoever, and will continue to do so, is a wonderful mystery that I read last year, and I loved every minute. It's kind of like, I guess, the birth of detective fiction. I read The Moonstone last year by Wilkie Collins. I just adored it. I want to read it again.
Well, let's sweep. Wilkie Collins is another perfect example of an author who is universally beloved that I don't like.
Oh, wow.
I don't like him. I've read his two big, universally beloved books, and
sure.
I'm there the whole time saying, all right, I don't get it. Why do all of you love this? God, so you did Beckett and Steinbeck, and I just don't get Wilkie Collins. I know he's beloved, but my favorite encounter with Wilkie Collins on the page was in a Dan Simmons novel where he has bugs crawling under his skin.
That sounds like Dan Simmons. Absolutely. This is all I've read. I have not read anything else, but
yeah, so you enjoyed it.
This one got me. Yeah, it got me. It's lethargic. It's a little lethargic, but I enjoyed the slow. Talk about a slow burn. I mean, it was it was the burner on one. I mean, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed visiting that world.
And do you have? I mean, does Wilkie Collins do anything at your library?
No.
Really not.
No.
Really not.
No. Not a bit. No.
Well,
Unless
Steinbeck, you have the full complement for schools.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then some. I would say our Steinbeck section is healthy. I've I've watched The Grapes of Wrath go out just recently, actually, and I sort of shook my head and said, "Go with God." So I don't like that book, but yeah, no, it's well, this was a historic day. I guess if Steve ever visits Cedarburg with Frida, because I know Frida wants to meet my cats. He would look at my bookshelf and go, "Ugh."
We'll always have Chekhov.
We'll always have Chekhov, that's right. And we'll always have two-fisted tails.
By random chance, this wild card segment was a special "It's not you, it's me" segment of wild card.
It's wilder than usual.
Three authors I am not condemning. I'm saying I don't get them.
Yeah.
I've read everything by all of them, and I don't get them. I have never felt that spark of excitement.
Well, you know what to do, folks. Get down in the comments and convince Steve why he should get them.
If you're watching this on YouTube, tell me what you like about Wilkie Collins or John Steinbeck or tell me what you like about them.
Absolutely.
I may be far, far above my producer, but I'm not above getting tips about maybe a good way in to any of these authors.
Sure. Absolutely. We love that kind of stuff. And you know what we love as well? We love it if you would go over to our Patreon page, which is healthy and active. And we certainly intend to get some patron-only content up there. We have some big ideas. Actually, we may have to do the Beckett Collins. Who's the other cat that we and Steinbeck, the Beckett Collins Steinbeck dissertation, where we unpack all of that for Steve. We don't know what's going to happen over on Patreon, and you can find out. And all you have to do, all it'll cost you on the lowest end is like $3 and a few, like a nickel, a quarter, and maybe 2 pennies. So that's all it's going to take.
Goes to the friends at the Cedarburg Public Library.
Every nickel goes to the friends.
Good cause. It's not going to our bratwurst. It's going to a good cause.
No. The friends who actually even fund this show. I haven't told them yet, but they're a wonderful group. They're an amazing group. What we love about Steve, you have something.
2 of the friends also narrowly survived the Holocaust.
Oh,
and one of them did not.
Oh, jeez.
I know. It's a long story. They'll tell it to you at the drop of a hat.
I'm not asking. No. Head down, get back to work, Jeff. That's what I do. Yes, sir.
We will be adorning the Patreon with extras, with goodies for all of you patrons. We're incredibly grateful for if you decide that you want to give us your coffee money, because that's going to the friends and they can use it. If your friends, your local friends of the library group, they can attest. Maybe you're part of that group. They can attest. They're never rolling in dough. They can always use the money.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a very robust friends group. They are they talk about the well-armed militia. My friends group is the well-armed militia. They're armed with books. So that's what it is. And I wouldn't cross them. Steve does. But he's in Boston. I'm not even convinced that Boston exists.
Yeah, you love your friends group, do you? Do you produce shows for them?
I would never. No, to do such a thing would be an amazing betrayal. So thanks everybody for joining us.
Wait.
Hoop-dee-doo, hoop-dee-doo, hoop-dee-doo.